Hey everybody, welcome back. We're in chapter 18, and today we're talking about the locative case. Alright, the locative case is used to show place where, so it's similar to an ablative, and it's used with specific types of words. It's used with cities, towns, and oddly enough, small islands. Okay, so cities, towns, or small islands, and it's also used with a few select words. Okay, notably, those select words are domus, humus, and rus. Okay, domus meaning house, humus meaning ground, and rus meaning country, like the countryside. There are other select words that use the locative, but they're a little more obscure. These are the three common ones. Okay, so how to form the locative? Well, it really works by declension. So we're going to start with first declension. Okay, first declension, locative. Okay, first declension locative looks like the genitive in the singular. Okay, so here's an example. If we take the noun Roma, which means Rome, of course, Rome, and we want to put it in the locative, then we would make it look like the genitive singular. So we would say Romae. Okay, Romae would be the locative form, and we would translate that at Rome or in Rome. Okay, so I could never say in Roma, right? Because that's wrong. Because Rome is a city, and therefore it should take a locative. And so I have to say Romae, at Rome or in Rome. So if I wanted to say something in Latin like I am in Rome, I would say sum Romae. There's a way you can kind of get around this. If you use the word urbs, meaning city, you could say in urbe Roma. And so here Roma is in a positive to urbe, so in the city of Rome. You probably have seen this a few times in the text so far, so that's one way to get around it. But if you're just saying in Rome or at Rome, then you have to use the locative form Romae. So this will work for any city that ends in an A that's first declension singular. And there are lots of examples of these in your book in chapter 18, so I'll just give you a few. So for instance, Capua. If you said Capuae, that would be at Capua. Or Ostia, Ostii, at Ostia. Okay. And so if you want to form the locative of a first declension noun, and it's singular, then you just make it look like the genitive singular. Now, if you want to express motion, okay, expressing motion with words that take a locative. It sounds a little weird, but it's really important. So, for instance, if a word takes a locative, like Roma, okay, or Capua, or Ostia. Okay, those are all cities, so they all take locatives. You must remember never to use a preposition. Okay, so for instance, if I wanted to say to Rome, like I'm going to Rome, then you would never say ad Romam. Get rid of that preposition. You would just say Romam. Okay, so it's still an accusative of place to which, but you just don't use a preposition when you express it in Latin. Same thing if you wanted to say from Rome. Okay, from Rome. You wouldn't say, you would never say a Roma. Get rid of that preposition. You would just say Roma. You would just put the word into the ablative. So Roma. So Romam would be to Rome. Roma would be from Rome. So never use a preposition when you're expressing motion with a word that takes a locative. Okay, and so any city, Roma, Capua, Ostia, those would all fit that criteria. Okay, so that's first declension in the singular. Let's look at first declension plural. First declension plural. Okay, so there's certain cities that exist only in the plural, their names. So one of them, Atenae, which is Athens. Okay, Thebai, Thebes. Okay, these are the two. These are probably the two most common. There are others. Syracuse on Sicily does this too. Okay, so if you want to express locative in the plural, then use ablative. Okay, so Atenis would be at Athens or in Athens. Thebes would be in Thebes or at Thebes. Syracusis would be at Syracuse or in Syracuse. Okay, so if it's first declension plural, if the city exists only in the plural, it's a plural only noun, then you use the ablative to express the locative. And the same rule applies for motion. So, for instance, if you wanted to say to Athens, like we're going to Athens this summer, then you use the accusative without a preposition. So, Atenas. Okay, and it's plural because Athens only exists in the plural. If you wanted to say from Athens, so from Athens, then you would just use the ablative. So this would be Atenis, from Athens. Now you might say, well, how would I distinguish that from the locative? Atenis, which means in Athens, right? Okay. Here's where the context of a sentence comes in. Okay. So if I say something like Discato Atenis versus mon eo Atenis. Okay, so discato means to leave or to exit, go out. So I leave, and then from is understood, from Athens. Okay, so that means that this is ablative based on the context of the verb. Moneo means to stay, so I stay in Athens. I wouldn't say I stay from Athens. This doesn't make sense in English or in Latin. So I stay in Athens, that means Atenis here is locative. So it really just depends for the plural, where it could be the forms look the same between ablative and locative. It just depends on the context of the sentence. Okay, Now let's look at second declension. Okay, second declension, singular. Okay, use, just like first declension, the genitive singular. Okay, and so there are several cities that are second declension that take locatives. I'm going to give you a couple. Brundisium, the famous port city on the eastern coast of Italy that led to Greece. So Brundisium is a second declension noun. Londinium, as in the city of London. Okay, so if you wanted to form the locative, then you would use the genitive singular. So Brundisii would be in or at Brundisium. Okay, and then Londinii would be in or at London. And the same rule applies for motion on these. So if you wanted to say we're going to Brundisium. Okay, so to Brundisium, okay, would just be Brundisium, because it's also accusative, right? It's the second declension neuter. If you wanted to say from Brundisium, then you would just put this word into the ablative. Brundisio. Okay, so remember, when you're showing motion with words that take the locative, then you never use a preposition, either accusative or ablative. Okay, plural second declension. Okay, second declension plural. Just like first declension, we are going to use the ablative for locative. Okay, so here's an example of a word that is a second declension plural city. Pompeii, which is Pompeii, right? Famously destroyed by Mount Vesuvius in AD 79. Okay, so if I wanted to say at Pompeii, I would put Pompeii, or Pompeii in Latin, into the ablative. So Pompeis would be in or at, Pompeii. Okay, in or at Pompeii. Okay, and if I wanted to say to Pompeii, to Pompeii would be accusative, so Pompeios. And then from Pompeii, of course, would also be in the same form as the locative, Pompeis. And remember, we make the differentiation, between ablative and locative based on the context. Okay, good. All right, so now let's talk about third declension. Okay, and there are only locative forms for first, second, and third declension. Okay, so for third declension singular, if the word is third declension singular, then you're actually going to use the dative if it's third declension singular. And if the word, or you could also use the ablative. You could use dative or ablative. Okay. So probably the most famous third declension word that does a locative is Cartago, right? The city of Carthage. Okay. So the vocab entry for this word is Cartago, Cartaginus. Okay, that's feminine, of course. And so if you wanted to say at Carthage, you would make it dative. Cartagini. So at Carthage, or in Carthage. Or you could also use the ablative. Cartagine. Okay, and so the same rules apply for motion. So if I wanted to say to Carthage, it would have to be accusative, Carthaginem. Okay, and if I wanted to say from Carthage, then I would make it ablative. Cartagine. Okay, Cartago is going to be the word that you see most often in the third declension locative, or in any locative forms. The plural for third declension looks just like the plural for first and second. So for locative, you would use the ablative, and then of course use accusative and ablative for motion. Okay, let's talk about the three really common words that take locatives. Domus, humus, and rus. Okay, so the locative of domus is domi, which means at home. The locative of humus is humi, which means on the ground. Okay, and the locative of rus is ruri, because it's third declension, so you use dative, and it means in the country, or in the countryside. Okay, and so of course the same rule applies with motion. So if you wanted to say I'm going to the house or to home, you would use domum. If you're coming from the house, domo. Same thing with rus. If you're going to the country, you would say rus, because rus is actually neuter. It's rus, ruris, neuter. And if you wanted to say from the country, you would say rure, use the ablative. Okay? And that is it for our talk on locatives, and thanks for tuning in, everybody, and see you again next time.